I,
All
yeah.
right, we're going to ask those of you that are coming in to share, if you would. Amen. We're going to have a conversation today, and I don't know if it's so much going to be a spiritual conversation, but it is nevertheless going to be one that is necessary, and that definitely needs to come from spiritual voices and preachers of today's time. It is important that if we are going to make changes, if we're going to allow things to happen in this season and in this time, then we're going to have to open our mouths, and not only open our mouths, but we're going to have to find a way
Hello, Bishop.
to communicate with this world, in this world, so that we're able to make the changes that need to happen. So I'm excited about what is happening. Amen. I'm excited about what's going on, and we have some very important guests that are going to be with us today. Right away, I'm not going to belabor the time because I know we have a few things that are going to be going on today. But I want to say this as we start. One of the persons that I admire is Fannie Lou Hamer, and she says this. And we start today with this. Sometimes it seems like to tell the truth today is to run the risk of being killed. But if I fall, I'll fall 5 feet 4 inches forward in the fight for freedom. I'm not backing off. So today I want to open our conversation with two persons. One that's on right now, Bishop Charles Ross, and also we have a representative from Black Lives Matter. And Bishop, if you would, I know that we're going to probably spend a little time on today, but I want to allow our guests from Black Lives Matter to talk to us and tell us where we are. I know there is a gathering today, and I wish I would have been able to be there. We're coming into Philadelphia, but I'm not there now. Give us a climate, give us an update on what's going on right now in Philadelphia, and give us some advice of how we need to be considering this moment right now.
That's for me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for having me. My name is Devin, and I am a member of Black Lives Matter, among a few other organizations. Right now, um, the national story of what happened to George Floyd, where he was murdered on Monday by the police state, right? And then so now across the country, we're having a bunch of uprisings and protests in solidarity. But I think what's really important right now is for us to really understand the moment that we're in. We're in the middle of a pandemic. People are technically risking their lives to be here today,
Yes.
but more importantly, we're in the middle of budget season, right? And budget season is when our elected officials, our city council members, and our mayor make decisions on how they invest their money, our money, into the services that the city provides.
All right.
And right now, the mayor is proposing a draconian cut to many social services that would help marginalized communities stay afloat, right? While we face down economic turmoil. He has gotten rid of the Office of Adult Education, which provides many resources for people in communities, for adults who are looking to return to college or looking to get additional education or resources to be able to help, right? And we are also facing down in this moment the fact that we are really about to see some economic change
Yes.
to revert back to the early 2010s. So what's really important across the movement right now. So there are two protests today. One, this 12 o'clock protest at City Hall is not affiliated with Black Lives Matter, but it is on message. There's a 2 p.m. protest on the steps of the art museum, which is Black Lives Matter, and Philly Real Justice's protest. And we are all calling for City Council to vote no on this draconian budget. We are tired of taking money out of the mouths of our children to give to police at the expense of the wraparound services that we know that would actually keep our community safe. So while there's a lot of other analysis and there's a lot of other points being made, especially remembering Breonna Taylor, especially remembering all of the people who have been victims both of violence, state violence, and gender-based violence, and how that impacts our communities. One thing we are all fighting for with one voice is for city council to vote no against this budget. They
Okay.
don't have to vote for it.
Okay.
They may say they do. They don't have to. So
I
I'm
know
sorry.
we've
Go ahead.
got Cindy Bass that's going to be coming on, and we're going to definitely bring that up to her in a few minutes. Let me ask you this: what is it that each of us can do as citizens, not just here in Philadelphia, because we have people that are watching all over? What is it that we can do that we can forge through this so that we can see positive change? What can we do?
Those local organizations, those local activists that have been advocating for different members of the community that seem uncared about, the returning citizens, trans community, those activists, support them, right? When you get in front of the voting booth and you have to make if you vote and you have to make decisions of what is best for your community, understand that more money for police is not one of them, right? Understand that we have to have systemic change, and that systemic change doesn't mean that we are funneling money into that very system that is causing so much harm, right? And
Good.
if you're white, use your privilege. Use your privilege to protect folks who don't have that same protection of your skin color. And there's many others. I think I want to uplift the demands coming out of Minnesota in solidarity, which is also calling for the funding of the police, among other things. Um, but it's also like be active, take a side, right? Do what you can do. Not everyone can leave their house, but do what you can do to make a difference.
Be active, make a difference, make a side, and I think that's the thing. And we're going to talk about this, and I don't want to hold you up. I'm grateful that you took the time in the midst of this, in the midst of you being in the protest. I'm grateful that you opened the dialogue, and we will possibly do this again, where we will have a little bit more time with you. Now we're gonna spend some time on this today, but I want to come back. I want to bring this back to you so that we can bring, because you brought up a lot of points and we're going to probably deal with them today. And one of the things that I do want to talk about is, even though there are so many different organizations and communities that are involved, one of the things that we've got to learn is we got to learn how to live together. We got to learn how
Mm-hmm.
to appreciate one another, appreciate our differences, and respect our differences. But in order for us to be able to make it through this, we're going to first of all have to learn how to love one another and be able to deal with one another. So we're going to talk about that, and I want you to know that we are in solidarity with what you're doing in this peaceful protest, this peaceful gathering today. Now you're downtown now, but at 2 o'clock you're going to be on the steps of the art museum, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so we're going to make sure that we post that and let everyone know, so that we can, do everything that we can to be in solidarity, to let everybody know. Listen, as a black community, we're standing together, and we're not all trying to destroy things. We're not trying to loot. We're not trying to cause disturbances, but we do want to be heard. Not only do we want to be heard, but we want changes to be made. So my brother, I salute you. Amen. We're going to stay in touch with you. I'll send you my information. And if not today, definitely before the weekend is over, we'll reconnect again. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Now, y'all be safe out there, please.
Yes.
All right.
Everything's peaceful too.
Wonderful.
All right.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, my brother. Bishop, we have this young man who has been on with us and shared with us, and he's going to. I needed to let him go because they're in the midst of that protest. But I wanted to open the conversation with you. I want to get. I'm going to try to get Cindy Bass on. She's our representative here in Philadelphia. I wanted to try to get her on and see if I can get some. I want to kind of get these persons in and out of the way so we don't hold them up. We know that they have a lot of things that are going on in their day, so we want to try to kind of talk with them and see if we can get some answers and get some resolve on this afternoon. Hello, Councilwoman Bass, how are you? Do I have you? Hello. All right. I think hold on one second. I got too many connections going on here. I think I got you now. All right, Councilwoman Bass. Wonderful, wonderful. I wanted to. I have you. We're on live. I understood you're not able to be on video, but having you just to give your presence is worth millions, and I'm grateful for that.
It's my honor to be on. Thank you so much for including me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I wanted to give an opportunity. We have a few that are watching, and I wanted.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, all right. And those of you that are just coming on, this is Councilwoman Cindy Bass. She is our councilwoman here for our 8th district. And we are grateful that she's not just she's a person who we've had several conversations with her, and she has offered so much assistance and help to us. So I'm grateful that she is coming with us today to talk. And Councilwoman, I know you have a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things happening. So I'm going to cut to the chase. Give us where we are right now. We just spoke with a young man from Black Lives Matter, and I want you to kind of give us some insight of where we are, what we need to be focusing on so that we can see positive change here in Philadelphia and where it could, because what's happening in our major cities is what's funneling down into our smaller rural areas.
Yes.
So they're kind of watching what we do, and we need to kind of make sure that we are kind of doing the right thing. So give us a picture of what actually the right thing is looking like right now.
I think that what we're seeing right now is the culmination of frustration over years, over decades, over generations. It's not anything that's necessarily new, but it is just sort of a call to arms, so to speak, of just the frustration, like this is wrong. What's happening in this country is wrong. It's been wrong, and let's get it right. You can have one group of people who can stand in front of state houses with, shotguns and assault rifles, and it's their constitutional right to do so. But when those people are of a different hue, they can't gather. They can't gather and protest without there being the employment of tear gas and smoke bombs and violence and all those kinds of things. So, we have two separate cities in every city in this country, and we know it, and we've been knowing it. But I think what we're seeing right now is the complete frustration. People are absolutely disgusted. People are angry. And I think that video, when you watch that video, it's so hard to watch. It was so hard for me to watch. And to be honest, I haven't been able to just sit and watch it all the way through because it's so hard.
Yeah.
You're watching somebody dying in front of you. And if from some of the parts that I've seen, it looks like to me, it looks like it's intentional.
Yeah.
It looks like this officer is looking down to make sure that he's doing what he wanted to do, which was snuff out the life of this man. And so,
he had his hands in his pocket. He had his knee on his neck and his hands in his pocket.
He had every intention of killing this man. And I don't believe in my heart anything else. There's no reason I want to believe that about this person, but I saw the video. The video speaks for itself.
Right.
And the fact that we continue to have this delay in justice for us is what part of the issue is. We're tired of the delays. Why do we always have to wait for a grand jury, for an investigation, don't rush to judgment. There's more on the video. There's more information out there, and we have to get the full story. No.
Yes.
No, treat it like you treat us.
That's right.
Treat it like you treat us.
That's right.
So, I'm, listen, we're all hyped right now. We haven't even gotten over the shooting death of that young African American man down in
Georgia. That's right.
We didn't even have time to finish processing
That's right.
that video, and now here we are with this video. And then we have up in New York, thank goodness it didn't end up with police involvement and a negative response from the police towards the African American man who was bird watching. And a white woman comes up and says, I'm going to call the police on you and say, is an African American man threatening me? That was a power play. That was saying,
Right.
I know I can hurt you.
Right.
I can hurt you just based on my race. I can do something to you because you are challenging me.
Yes.
I can really, I can affect your life if I want to.
That's right. That's
and
right.
we know that that goes back, you know, since we landed in this country.
That's right.
Where someone can point a finger at us and say, he did this to me, and that's it. You don't have to say anything else.
That's right.
That word is judge and jury.
That's right.
And executioner.
And we don't have that same right. We don't get that privilege because the powers that be are already set up against us. So
absolutely.
I make this statement, and I refer to this woman a lot, Fannie Lou Hamer. And one of the things that she says, and as a preacher, I have to say this, we can pray to the Lord all we want to, but God is not going to do anything until we get up and do something for ourselves. Right. And we've got to make some decisions on how we are going to come out of this. Now, our first two things, and really the only two power plays that we really have, one is our dollar and our vote. Our dollar and our vote. Our dollar and our vote. And we are going to have to become, and we're going to have to start teaching, in my opinion, and I want to hear your feedback, but in my opinion, we're going to have to start some type of educational plan that we can get our people to understand the power of their dollar and the power of their voice. We are not we're not in the 50s, we're not in the 40s where they were not able to vote, where they didn't have the ability. We have got to make some decisions, and it's not going to be our major hall or our major avenue is not just going to be in the church. I know when things happen, we jump to the church and we want to look at the church, but the church is the place where we get energized. We work in the street. We're going to have to get out of the church, and we're going to have to get into it. So I know we have an election coming up on the 9th, and I'm not making this political, but please, for those of us that are watching, we've got about maybe 60 on now. Would you please tell us the importance of getting to the polls?
Yes. Well, let me just say a couple of things. The first thing is, as everybody knows, Election Day is Tuesday, June 2nd.
I'm sorry.
Polling places have changed. And so there's, I think, maybe a quarter of the polling places that there used to be. And that's as a response to COVID. But we don't want folks to feel discouraged. We don't want them to feel that they can't get out and vote. And one of the things I've learned today, and Bishop, I'm going to just tell you what I learned today. And I don't know if you all have discussed this yet or not, but I'm still getting information. But there is an emergency absentee ballot application. Are you familiar with this?
No.
So we were encouraging people, listen, apply by mail, online or on paper, but apply to do an absentee ballot so that you don't have to show up. You don't have to go around looking for your polling place. You can just get a ballot and you can go ahead and vote on Election Day and not have to worry about how crowded the places are because they've condensed the number. You don't have to worry about will my name be in the book and all these kinds of things when you show up to vote. So we thought it would be so much easier. Listen, just get it in the mail. You can send it back in the mail. Now you would have to drop it off, but there's drop-off spots all around the city. So, but the cutoff for that was Tuesday at 5 p.m. We have since learned yesterday that there is such a thing as an emergency absentee ballot. I have it in my possession. I'm going to scan it and send it to you as soon as I hang up, Bishop.
Yes, ma'am.
So that you can have a copy of it and you can see what it looks like. And I've reached out to our city commissioner, Omar Sabir, to get additional information to find out exactly how this works. because some other information we received was that, let's say if I needed an absentee ballot that I had to do it myself. We know for some of our seniors it's too much.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like it's just too much. But what we've learned with the emergency absentee ballot is that I could say, I want Bishop Porterfield to go and be my representative and pick up my ballot for me.
Oh, wow.
He's going to pick it up and he's going to drop it off.
Oh, wow.
And all I have to do is sign. And that's it.
Okay.
And so, again, I want to get more information, but I would encourage you to, spread the word about that. It's an additional resource. And so we have, sometime today, all day tomorrow, all day Monday.
Okay.
So it's rough work, it's busy work, but it's important work, given what we're talking about right now.
Yes.
We have to get out and vote, folks. I don't know any other way to say it. We have to get out. We have to take back our community. And going back to what you said about how we spend our money, we got to stop spending money with people that disrespect us.
Man.
We got to stop spending money with people who come into our community. They operate late at night. They operate with no social distancing. They allow people to crowd into these.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
They allow any kind of behavior.
Yes.
Inside and outside, which causes problems for the whole neighborhood.
Yes.
We have to stop supporting businesses that disrespect our neighborhood.
That's right.
We have to speak with our dollars.
That's right.
And I really look forward to working with you on that and finding ways that we can educate our community, because we have to put our money in different places. We have to, we have to figure out, okay, where are we going to put our money at?
Right.
Are we going to use a traditional bank? Are we going to use United Bank? Are we going to use, credit unions? Are we going to start a credit union?
Right.
What are we going to do?
Right.
Because we can't keep doing what we've been doing, because we're going to keep getting what we've been getting.
That's right.
Which is nothing.
Nothing.
And I know I'm just sick and tired of it. I'm frustrated. I'm just, beside myself. I had as an aside, I had a conversation just the other day during budget hearings, and I don't know if anybody heard this, but, so we're having the budget hearings and everything is on Microsoft Teams, which is like Zoom, and we're on and having these conversations. And so I asked the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, well, what's the plan this summer?
Mm-hmm.
What's the plan? The rec centers are going to be open, but there's no programming. So I don't know why they're open if there's no programming.
Right.
There's no programming. There's no basketball. All the courts are down. There's no pools, so nobody can go swimming and cool off. And she said, well, the plan is summer camp and, what did she say? Summer camp, play streets, and a few summer jobs. I said, well, great you have a few summer jobs, but what about most of these kids? You're not going to be able to hire but a few hundred kids here or there. So what about the 15-year-old that wakes up on a Tuesday morning that didn't get a summer job, that's too old for summer camp, that ain't going to a play street? What are we doing about them?
Right. Right.
What's the plan for our young people? Because what we are seeing right now in this frustration, we need to know that this is just the beginning. If we don't get a plan together for our kids, it feels like a setup.
Yes.
That's what it feels like. And then when I said it to her, she went offline and then she inadvertently unmuted herself and said, I hate her so much.
Oh.
She's out to get me.
Oh.
I'm out to get you for asking you to do your job.
Wow.
You shouldn't be in the job.
Wow.
And so I'm going to ask that we all stand up and say to folks, anyone that is taking our communities for granted, not doing their job, not doing what they're supposed to do, that we hold them wholly accountable.
Yes, ma'am.
And that goes from the mayor on down.
That's right.
And that certainly includes me too. If you think I should be doing something and I ain't doing it, then I want to know.
And see, and the tables have turned, because now it includes the preachers as well. We're all going to have to work. We're going to have to put our boots on the ground. I have Councilwoman Bass. I have on here Bishop Charles Ross. He's down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and then we also have Bishop Kevin Daniels. And I've drugged my feet, but every Monday night in Baltimore, they have a gathering of men, and they gather on the streets So you see, we have preachers now who are not just concerned about having a mic in their hand, but they recognize that the real change is going to happen in the street, because you're going to have some people who are not coming to church, who
That's
not
right.
they're not walking into the church, but
Right.
they are willing to work, and they're willing to help and help us to have a peaceful environment. So it is so true what you said. I want to thank you for being a part. I know for you to take out this time on a Saturday when you could be resting and doing other things. I want to appreciate that. I'm going to look for the email from you so that I
Yes.
can make sure that we distribute it to especially our seniors and those that between Sunday evening and Monday, I can make those trips and pick those ballots up and make sure that we get them dropped off so that we can make sure our voice is
Yes.
heard in this
Yes. Yes.
election. And so
Absolutely.
thank you
Absolutely.
so much. So thank you so much. I'll look forward to talking to you real soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me,
Thank you
Bishop.
so much.
All right now.
All right, Bishop Ross, I've had you on. I know you are ready. We're gonna talk. Open this up. I have Bishop Kevin Daniels on here. Bishop, we got to figure out what are we doing. How are we going to come through this, Bishop?
Yeah, it marks. I was listening to was that one of the civic leaders?
Councilwoman Cindy Bass.
Even as we are, on Tuesday, we are in the midst of our own election here in Baltimore. A lot going on in Baltimore. A lot's been going on in Baltimore for 40 years. But
Hmm.
even on the eve of Pentecost Sunday, I just got off with a group of young people. One of the things that's real clear about Pentecost, a lot of times when we think about Pentecost, and I'm going to say this in light of civic responsibility, when we think of Pentecost, we think of just presence.
Hmm.
But Pentecost in the Old Testament had something to do with them giving God giving them the law for public policy and for public health. A
Hmm.
lot of the time, our Pentecostal experience must move beyond just presence. What I mean is, presence gives us inspiration and motivation for the other 6 days to do activation.
Hmm.
So again, a part of our responsibility is to be civically inclined.
Yes, sir.
And that's why not only with the men's movement have we been providing food, but also deeper than that, just the movement going on in Baltimore, we put together a real estate company of over 40 men,
Wow.
Keova. And so what we're doing is buying real estate because one of the things that's very clear in Baltimore and around the country is gentrification.
Yes.
But number two, the Ministers Conference of Baltimore, in which I am the chair of Civic Action, we put together a whole plan for the 14 districts of Baltimore City, and we've been working it for the last year and a half as it relates to public safety, public health, public education, but also workforce and economic development. And a lot of the clergy, over 150 churches, are part of that experience. And we just launched the bill, the Elijah Cummings bill for trauma in Baltimore. I was one of those original people to be a part of that public policy because
Wonderful.
ultimately, when this is over, we're going to need to do some deeper work as it relates to trauma because we've been hit since the 1960s, civil rights. Since 1970, cities for deindustrialization, 1980s, crack cocaine,
Yes.
1990, the crime bill, 2000, we went into a whole push for police brutality. 2008, we hit the Great Recession, and now every 10 years, 2020, we're looking at the coronavirus. It is taking us deeper and deeper into generational trauma,
Yes, sir.
and we need to do something about it.
Yes, sir. I agree. I agree. Bishop Ross, you've been sitting, and I have so much respect for you. Tell us, tell us what is the climate there in Fort Lauderdale.
Well, it's good to be on with you. You and I didn't get the other bishop's name. I'm
Bishop
sorry.
Kevin Daniels.
Bishop Daniels. It's good to be on
Yes.
with the both of you. Well, you can sense here when you talk about the climate, you can sense the tension in
Hmm.
the air.
Hmm.
And as Councilwoman Bass would have said, that individuals are just basically tired when you consider especially the Black community.
Hmm.
we have seen many civil disobedience, many marches, and things of that nature. We've seen it, but it appears that this it has gone unnoticed
Hmm.
by those who would have the power to change and address these issues. So it's taken a turn. And what I'm looking at, I'm seeing a lot of individuals, of course, condemning what is taking place as far as in Minnesota and different parts of the world. I'm looking at the condemnation and hearing it. But one thing I would say is that what this particular incident, and I believe that's what we are, moving toward to discuss, whereas with George Floyd is concerned, this particular incident has gotten the attention of the entire
The
world.
entire world. Yeah.
There's we have seen, of course, many instances and there have been a lot of marches, but this particular incident, it hits a little different. And I think where the community is concerned is that they've reached a boiling place. They're boiling over, and rather than condemning, we need to just kind of look at things on both sides of the spectrum. And whereas the temperature is concerned here, the climate, you can see that individuals, those I've had the opportunity to talk to, they're just kind of fed up with the injustices that we're facing. And while in fact it's good to have different programs and different organizations and different things in place, it's good to have those things in place, and it shows that we are making some level or making stride in some aspect.
Hmm.
But there is still a long ways we have to go when we're dealing with what is happening here. And as you said, it's just kind of time for, especially as preachers, if our brothers and sisters, and I want to say our Caucasian brothers and sisters won't speak up for us, it's time for us to speak up and really make our voice heard, in this time. So, this is where we are. And I just, some ask me, how do I feel about all of the rioting and things of that nature? And I'm just kind of, I want to say this in I want to say this in a way where I'm not really looked at. Well, I don't care if I'm looked at differently. I'm kind of numb to it
Hmm.
because we have reached this place. It should have never gotten to this place. If we had individuals who were listening, individuals who were considering, the lives of others. We've had so many incidents that have been uncovered just in the past couple of weeks. And then when you look at this white gentleman who is alleged to be involved in two murders.
Hmm.
And you see the police that after apprehending him, that have bandaged him and giving him a cold drink of water. And he was apprehended without incident. And he maintains his life.
Who
Uh,
actually
so
murdered? Who actually murdered people?
murdered. He is accused of murder, and it shows the injustice. And so, we're looking at the temperature, the climate here, and individuals are fed up. They're tired.
Yeah. Bishop Daniels, what do you say to that?
Well, again, I think, yeah, here in Baltimore, I just got a call this morning and yesterday from the, community policing here in Baltimore because they're getting ready to start a protest downtown in Baltimore as well. As the bishop said, they're getting ready to do that here in Baltimore. I'm always concerned, and I'm always concerned that, and this has been going on for decades. You're talking about the people that are supposed to be protecting and
Yeah,
serving us, they have historically, whenever there's been any kind of unrest in countries, well, especially in our country, it has been over some kind of brutality
Yes.
of police over the at least over the last 10 years. But
absolutely.
somehow the protests never get to some extent, not to all. It did in Baltimore because we got the consent decree and we are still operating out of that consent decree. And the judge on the federal level refuses to allow the Trump administration to stop that consent decree. Ours was one of the only ones that this judge said, listen, we're not going to take this consent decree out of place. So we are still dealing with the consent decree. I led my research. I was a part of the team that did the research on the consent decree from a community engagement perspective. And we did a whole report. We talked to all of our community members, and the police together was at those sites over 14 districts. The police said we can't do our job because the consent decree is blocking us. Well, that's not true. The
Mm-hmm.
consent decree is not blocking you from doing it. The consent decree is holding you accountable to the Constitution that you're supposed to be following. So, what they literally done in Baltimore was not make arrests, ultimately because they don't want to go past the consent decree. We also just got, I'm one of the researchers for the surveillance,
Mm-hmm.
because we're one of the only cities that now have the surveillance. So a part of my team at Morgan, we're looking at the surveillance research to find out, does it work,
Mm-hmm.
and contrast it with planes in the air. Does it work? Contrast it to all of the things we already have.
Mm-hmm.
So in a few minutes, I'm supposed to go down and just make sure we can keep calm in Baltimore City. But it's all over the country at this point. It was devastating
It was
to see what
devastating.
happened when to first of all, you did not need to wait this long to charge somebody, especially on putting your knee in somebody's neck until they're dead on
Absolutely.
cameras, while everybody is telling you, listen, don't do this. Even the man himself calling his mother. Something is
Jesus.
wrong with us when
Absolutely.
we feel like we have lost the sense of humanity. And of course, we're all angry because we have lost the sense of humanity. And then we say people are not supposed to be outraged to the point of rioting and protesting. But when you go deeper than that, a lot of our people don't feel like they have ownership in any of those
So it
stores.
doesn't matter. They ain't
So,
losing nothing. They're
but,
not
but,
losing anything.
but Bishop, I want to ask this question. You said, and we've lost the sense of humanity. But my question is, have we ever really had a sense of humanity?
With it,
That's good.
Have.
Bishop, I know you're going to answer this, Bishop Daniels. I know you are. But let me just say this. I believe that we did within our community.
Yes.
There was a time when we had it within our community, but it seems as if that desensitization has fallen upon. We don't value each other. We don't care for each other. Bishop, in preparing for my message on tomorrow, I was just looking at how many videos are online of us fighting each other for no reason, just fighting and beating each other down in our yards, and going into folks' houses and dragging them out. It what has happened, what they have done to us, we are doing to ourselves. So I do remember a time when everybody in the neighborhood watched out for everybody. Everybody, you might have had one or two bad seeds, but the overall neighborhood watched out for everybody. But it seems as if we just don't care for nobody right now. Go ahead, Bishop Daniels.
And, and I think I said it earlier, the accumulation of trauma, and I'm on the trauma task force here in Baltimore. The accumulation of trauma from all of those things, from our cities, from civil rights, all the way up to where we are now, coronavirus, and what people are saying when they talk about black on black crime. I normally have to address that in a school setting because um, white people are killing each other at the same rate,
Mm-hmm.
but it is not reported because
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, and what we know is that really those that are committing crime are below the poverty line. Those are the high percentages,
Mm-hmm.
but they're equal between black and white. So the issue is the issue crime or the issue poverty?
Mm-hmm.
So when
Okay.
you start talking about whether or not sometimes it leads to, when you look at the history since 1960 to 2020, every 10 years we've had an accumulation of more disparity. Now the coronavirus is literally wiping a lot of our people out because of comorbidity or co-occurring diseases in our lives. So when people say to me, "Why are we killing each other?" In some regard, if we don't look at this trauma that is happening to us, if we don't look at this in a serious way, we have emancipation, emotional emancipation circles here in Baltimore, because while simultaneously fighting government, fighting private industry, we have to your point, Bishop Porter, we have to take care of ourselves.
Yes, and I agree with you, but I wanted to add to that more so than poverty. I think a lot of the things, the reason why we are experiencing where we're imploding, so it seems,
Yes.
it's because of culture more than poverty. It's culture. We're living out of a culture that has been handed to us. If you start back, we were always the individuals, even in slavery, where the slave master played us against each other.
That's right.
And so it is a culture that has been developed. It's a culture that's been developed. And, sorry?
No. I was just saying a self-hatred.
Yes, right. And it's a culture that has been taught. And so now, as the bishop would have said, self-hatred. And so we're living out of that. More than poverty, more than anything else, we're living out of a culture that we've inherited, okay? And so they know, as I see someone post, they know that they're ployed. The white culture is not as powerful
Yeah,
as the
they
black.
know we're not
So
unified.
they know that they've had just a culture that is divisive, that
Right.
divides us, and so they capitalize on that culture. All right, and this is where we are. And so I believe that what needs to happen, of course, like what was mentioned, is that we need to find love for ourselves within our communities. We need to rediscover who we are. That's what we need to do. And we're talking about, black killing blacks and so forth. So I'm glad that you brought out the point, that there are just as much murder on white crime as there is blacks. All right, we bring that out and we like to highlight that, but we need to understand that we're in a place, we're dealing with individuals today who have had enough. And I'm one of those persons. And as Bishop said, these individuals feel like those who are rioting and burning down facilities, they feel like, well, we have no part in this or no investment in this anyway. So, it doesn't cost us anything. I think that we need to get on the side of really understanding that until we do something and we come up with a strategy and a plan, that this going to continue. It's going to continue, and individuals are going to be in fear of their lives. I heard a councilwoman say that you've got a group of white individuals standing out front with rifles and AK-47s, demanding that a city be opened, and they walk away with their lives. But then on the flip, you've got an individual who's accused of a phony $20 bill, and you think that it's okay to put your knee in this man's neck and kill him and take his life. And you do it with no sense of, you're completely desensitized, because as you said, he's there with his hands in his pocket, and because he feels like
No
the
remorse.
law is on my side,
No
and
remorse.
I'm gonna get out of this anyway, so it doesn't matter. We need to be a group of people who galvanize, who get together and understand. Number one, we've got to love ourselves. Number two, we've got to understand that those who are outside, those who don't look like us, are not superior to us. Okay? All right. And that's what we feel, because you can even see that in business. You see that in business.
That,
You and I, we can open a business, and our black community would rather support a white-owned business that's doing the same thing that we're doing than support us. Why? Because that's something that has been taught. It's a culture that we're living out of, and this is where I think that we just need to change the narrative by redefining who we are, and that's what I believe.
no,
Uh,
you hit it on the nail.
yeah.
I was with the mayor. I was with where I had a press conference yesterday, and we introduced this whole citywide trauma initiative. You're absolutely right, because we've got to dig into ourselves, reimagine, redefine who we were beyond America. Because in Africa, we know we are and still the cradle of civilization.
Yeah.
You can't deny that from archaeology. That's who we are. We gave birth to white counterparts. We gave birth to every other nationality in the world, and that's why we are the global majority.
And
That's right.
that ultimately is why ultimately they are afraid of us, because, and I think who I don't know who made that statement, but ultimately all of this is fear. They are afraid. The only reason why you treat people this way is because I'm ultimately afraid of you. I was watching a young man who got pulled over for a traffic violation. Well, they came to the car with his gun already drawn because he's a black man. So you have people who are working on a force who are supposed to be protecting and serving, and honestly, and I'm not making justification for them, but I'm saying they are literally afraid of us. And
Yeah.
because they are afraid of us, they respond out of fear. Bishop, I know you got to go, but I want to say this. One thing that I noticed, and I don't know if you all noticed this, but one thing that I did notice was yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Yesterday, Friday. They were protesting, but there was a white gentleman with a gas mask on and an umbrella that was walking around smashing windows.
Right.
Now, what does that say? Even if we're not doing it, we're going to be accused of it. They can come in, they can start taking us, because even with CNN, and they admitted it wasn't the blacks that started that down in Atlanta.
That is right.
They said there was another group. There was a whole nother group that came in, and I guarantee if we dig into it further, we're going to find out that there was another counterpart, because we saw white people that were standing up and jumping and doing this, that, and other. But it makes us look as if we are the ones that are being destructive, when they're only doing this to fuel the hatred that America has for us. So we got, listen. Shanika Elder Lawrence says this. Well, first of all, and Mark James there in Baltimore says, we already know. I'm sorry, but this rioting is a reaction. You better acknowledge that everybody ain't going to be passive to the inequity.
No,
Everybody is not going to be passive. Yes, sir.
and our ancestors were not passive. We have a long historical trail of ancestors that were not passive. We wouldn't be at least this moment in time had our ancestors been passive. So we have a to his point, we have a long history of not being passive, but the issue becomes beyond protest. To what extent are we going to move towards public policy? How are we going to move to coalescing together where we enhance, um, lift our power to the point where we do more about our situation? Tuesday is a vote in Baltimore. I want to make sure I'm pushing to make sure that people vote. We are 65% black in Baltimore, Maryland, and the way that it is 23 candidates that are black. So that one white woman. So what that literally means is our vote can be divided among 23 people, and the white candidate could prevail. That that right there is a concern beyond protest. He's right. We can't be passive. But after we tear the city down, what are we going to do
What happens?
after that is over?
And
What
strategy.
happens? And
And
that
that's
was
what
that was the question that I had. What do we do? But let me see this. Elder Shanika Lawrence, she says, she asked the question. We need to discuss action plans. Rioting, looting, etc. are reaction, are expressions of anger and rage, but they do not produce results. They do not. I understand that I understand we want to do something. I understand that we want to get out. I understand we want our voice to be heard. But after our voice is not being heard if we're burning everything down, because then we don't have any.
listen, let me tell you, I don't agree with what is taking place. See, I'm on the opposite. I don't agree with all of the rioting or what have you, but it took this to get an arrest. It took this. You see, if this had not happened, this would have been swept under the carpet, and we would have been on to the next incident. We would have gone to the next black individual who was killed without cause. So it took this to get the attention of the world in order to get an arrest.
And not because they had body cam footage, because they would have swept that under the rug. They would have swept that under the rug. Thank God that there was somebody who had a video.
So I can't agree with that. Now, when we talk about policy and we talk about other things that we need to implement, the first thing I want to say this is that even with voting, yeah, we have a lot of individuals. We talk about what are we doing, yet we need to get out and we need to vote. And the reality is not just vote, but we need more people that look like us running for elected offices. We need more people that look like us running for elected offices. All right. In addition to that, we need to galvanize and begin teaching, as I believe it was the bishop who said it, or I don't remember, but teaching self-love. We need to,
Yeah.
Bishop.
because the reality is it's not the explosion, it's the imploding that we need to deal with. All right, we need to deal with that. We need to go back and change the narrative. If I change your mind, I can change the way you live. If I change your mind, I can change what you do. But it's got to all start in the mind. And so we've got to begin to implement organizations or implement trainings and outlets for individuals that, especially men of color, young men of color, where we can teach them how to respect and love themselves. And this is where we're having the greatest challenge. A lot of what we're dealing with, as I said, is the culture. And individuals are saying, well, we know our history. I'm seeing those posts. We need to get past the history, but we cannot deal with issues today until we have resolved what ails us. And we've got to unearth that and deal with what ails us, the problems that we've had to face. We've got to deal with that. We've got to get to the
Yes.
core of our reality in order for us to move from that and
Yes, sir.
and forge forward.
Yes, sir. I totally agree. We've not dealt with it. Representation. We've got to have representation.
Oh, and the correct representation, because Baltimore has been guided by several African American leaders as well. But we've got to be able; those leaders must also have strategy on how they can move the city forward as well. Because just because they are skin folk ain't doesn't mean that they
We
are.
are kinfolk. Yes, sir. That is true. That is very true. I think one of the things that we've got to do, and we heard Councilwoman Bass talk about this, and I'm really now Bishop Daniels, do you all have what is known? I think when you came on, she had just got finished talking about an emergency absentee ballot.
Yeah, we do have that in Baltimore. But again, right now our challenge is going to be, because most of it is mail in, and trying to get people to mail it in and also to go to the ballot. Again, even with this notion of emergency ballot, um, um, how all that transacts, they all of that is transitioned into into our elections is going to be an issue and a challenge. And people already are beginning to see that we have 4 polling sites that are going to be open on Tuesday. Of course, I pushed for more, particularly since we can do, I don't like to say social distancing, but physical distancing. We can still do physical distancing because there are a whole lot of people that we've had problems with people getting their ballots.
Hmm.
Everybody has not gotten their ballots at this particular time. So it's a concern all the way around from emergency ballots to ballots, mail-in ballots, period.
Now, what they've done here is they have passed a bill that has given us as preachers, as those that we can actually represent. We can get the votes of the people. So we can, if they get their absentee, if they get their form filled out, we can actually turn it in for them. Especially dealing with this was something that was passed within the last couple of days here in,
Oh,
here in
okay.
Philadelphia. So I know what my job is going to be all day Monday. Monday I'll be going around making sure that those members of mine that are not able to get out and had not had the absentee vote, I want to make sure that there's, even though I live in Delaware, I want to make sure that those members, you see, these are the things that I heard someone say, what is it that the pastors and the preachers are going to do? See, these are the things that we're going to have to do. Those that are not on the front line, like Bishop Daniels, who is doing an amazing job. He's just not you will never be able to say, I ain't found a preacher that's in the streets. I ain't found a preacher that's not doing it. You as long as you know him, you'll never be able to say that. But it's not enough for him to do it. All of us
Yeah.
have to do it, and it's not enough for Bishop Ross to preach this in his church. And this, I'd laugh at him. I said, "And we ain't fighting today. We're gonna be peaceful today." But he's always been. Listen, we're gonna do this right. If we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this right. I'm not taking down. I'm not taking this. And we all have to take that mentality, and we have to not be afraid to do what we have to do. So the first thing is, number one, we gotta band together as a
Yeah.
people. We have got to band together, and we've got to dismiss or bring to a close this crab in the barrel mentality. We're all so many times we're the reason why they get so much success is because we kill each other. A lot of times we don't have to. They don't have to come in and do it. But if one of us start, instead of me pushing Bishop Daniels, I'm going to try to go around him and make connections so that I can be where he is, or put myself
Right.
when
Right.
God has not given me the favor that he has given you. God has given you the favor he's given you to bring about change in this season. So what do I do? My job is to support you and find out what it is that I need to do to bring it over into my area. Would you all agree with that?
No, I do agree. In coalition building, at Morgan, that's what I teach, community organizing. Um, Coalition building doesn't mean we agree on everything.
That's
Mm,
right.
It just literally means that we have taken three things or two things that we do agree about, and we built our power around it.
yes, sir.
Oh,
And
no, no.
so we're not always going, and we do need to have space where we acknowledge, and we laugh about it here in Baltimore, where we acknowledge with each other, I don't agree with you on this item, but I do agree with you about public safety.
Hmm.
Right now, everybody's on board about public safety. Everybody is on board about workforce and economic development. Everybody is on board with health right now because of the coronavirus. All organizations in Baltimore agree on those three things.
Yes, sir. I agree.
We don't agree on a whole lot of other things.
But we do agree on those, and those are the things that those are the basis or the axis on which we come together, and then we go to our we I don't everything that Bishop Ross preaches, I may not necessarily preach at my church and agree with everything that you may preach, and I may not necessarily fall in line with, but I'm not going to attack you. And I think that's the thing that we've got to learn. We can't keep attacking each other and think that we're going to be together. We got this the main let the main thing be the main thing, and let's ride on that, and then we can get to where we need to get to. Our
One of the
differences
things,
make us. Yes, sir.
one of the things, the reason that even a Trump administration dealt with criminal reform was because of the dollar amount that crime was causing, even to the 1%. And that's why the Koch brothers, all of them got behind it, whether or
That's
not
right.
they like us or not. We were messing with their money.
Yes, sir.
And even at this particular time, African Americans, whether we are 13% of the population, but we pour more consumer dollars into the culture.
Yes.
If we just came together on stifling the economic mobility of the country, we would win and get our needs met.
That's right.
I agree. I agree. I agree. Well, brethren, I want to thank you. So let's bring a resolve to this, Bishop. I know you have another event that you've got to get to. The biggest thing we need to get out and vote. We have to make our voices heard. But beyond the vote, what do we do?
Again, we have to build in this country. We spend over $1 trillion as a collective of 13%.
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand that the way this country works as far as economics, that's one area. As far as economics, right now, we have, just like our ancestors during the Montgomery bus initiative, when they stopped riding the bus company was getting ready to shut down. And then certain things had to be implemented for them to understand our power economically. Number one, we have to understand our power economically. I think before that, I think the bishop said it. We still have to understand our identity
Mm-hmm.
as people, as individuals. But then number two and three, we still have to start talking about economics. We still have to be able to talk about the fact that to some extent, whoever controls the supply and demand is the one that's in charge. Somehow or another, we don't understand our own economic value. So
Yes.
we have to understand that we are powerful people because without us, if we can shut down, if we can bring resolve to the criminal justice system, you know, and I know that we have that economic power and balance.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, Bishop. I appreciate you, Bishop, so much. I thank you for taking out your time. And again, I have to say, those of you that are listening, Bishop Kevin Daniels is a licensed clinician who is able to help us. And one of the reasons why I reached out to him was simply because I knew he had wisdom in how to help us. We talked to Bishop Ross about this on last night, and he immediately agreed that yes, we need to have this conversation. And I'll say this is not going to just be a one-time conversation. We're going to have to keep having this conversation. We're going to have to keep popping up. You know, we're going to have these pop-up shops that are going to help our people, because as long as we are not talking about it, and we may not have the platform of thousands of tens of thousands of people, we have those that have that, but then we have those that need to hear it, and if we don't share it, then there are those that will never hear it. So Bishop, I know.
I say this,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
another group that's underestimating their power is faith-based leaders.
Yes, sir.
We are on every corner, two and three.
That's right.
We literally are the hubs, and that's what we decided in the ministers' conference. We are the hubs within those communities. What we did in the ministers' conference was we we said no dollars are coming into your CDC at the church if you don't talk to your communities and find out what their needs are, and then the church and those communities build a partnership together
Mm-hmm.
where dollars can come through your CDC for those communities. And that's literally what we're doing in Baltimore. Another example, 40 business owners, black men, we came together and formed a year ago Kioba,
Mm-hmm.
keeping it 100. In other words, what we're doing in Baltimore at this juncture is buying real estate.
Mm-hmm.
40 black men. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it took us almost 6 months to a year to get together and form a unity but we're on track. We just bought several houses together, and we're building wealth,
Yes, sir.
not just for us, but for our generations behind us.
That's good, Bishop. That's the plan that we want to follow. So we want to get that information so that we can start passing that on and we can start making it happen, not for one individual, but that we truly want. We have so many, Bishop, we have so many abandoned buildings here in Philadelphia,
Wow.
high-rise buildings that could be transformed into housing that could with daycares and with even with schools in them where children would not even have to go far. There's one by our church I look at all the time. It's just going to take us making these things happen and thinking outside of the box and not being intimidated by our financial status or what we don't have or our credit score. There are people that are willing to stand and help us to cause these things to happen. We just haven't lined up with them yet. Bishop Daniels, thank you so much. I know you got to go. I appreciate
No,
you.
no, no. And this has been wonderful. And here's the thing, I love what you just said. None of us had money individually,
All
the
right.
black men, but when every month we all take $220 and pour in the pot.
Oh, that ain't nothing.
So it's a cooperative. So
Wow.
what happens is, even though we don't have the money individually, what we do is buy up two and three houses every 2 months and collectively share the wealth. And when it is divided, everybody gets an equal share.
Wow. And Bishop, and the thing about it is, we have I know we have two licensed contractors in our church.
Absolutely.
You know,
We
so
have everything we need. We just need to do an assessment of who we got in our midst.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's been
Bishop,
wonderful.
I love you, sir. I appreciate
Love you
you
too.
for being with us, and we'll be in touch. All right.
We do need to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I'll contact you in the next couple of days. We will definitely do it. We will keep it
Yes,
going.
sir.
All right. Love you,
Okay.
Bishop.
I'll take care.
All right, Bishop Ross. Listen, this has been wonderful. We had I had a young man who's a teacher at our ministry, and I was waiting on him. Dave Bell. Dave, if
I,
you try calling me again, yes, sir.
I want to say this because they're getting ready to start some rehearsals here in the
Yes.
church. But I want to say this. I saw a lot of the comments. That's what I've been reading.
Mm-hmm.
After we have been economically empowered,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things, the reality is in America, you're still black. That's the reality. And so while we may have wealth and we may have those things, and that's what we should ascribe to achieve. But while we may have those things, the reality is you are
Still
still
gonna be black. You're still gonna be a black man in a white
going
world.
to, and the system is not going to be ever in our favor unless we have individuals, like you said earlier, that is that is that is not desensitized, that's still in touch with life, with in touch with humanity, that we vote into elected offices.
Mm-hmm.
I saw someone say that election is just not even the first step because we know how even elections go. We have individuals in America still in elections. We know how that goes. All
Mm-hmm.
right, but we need to begin to strengthen our own communities, and we need to do that outside of leaning on or looking to those communities that perhaps may be in political offices. We need to start building from within.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I'm saying here. A lot of what is taking place in America today, the reality is we wouldn't have gotten to the place where we were or we are right now if there was no challenges or if the opposition reveals opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Reveals opportunities, and if there's no opposition, then guess what? None of these things would have happened. None of these things would have taken place. And so I'm of this persuasion I'm glad for the arrest, and I believe that's what we were called on for, to talk about what is actually happening. I have three sons. I
Yeah.
have three sons, and I'm concerned about them every single day.
Hmm.
Every day that they go out into the community, I'm concerned about them. And they're asking questions. And I saw someone say something, that they mentor young men and they are afraid. They're angry and they're afraid. And we need to deal with that. We need to deal with it. And a lot of those things that we've been talking about, it sounds good. But the reality is, we just need to get to the core of the ailment. And if we can get to the core of the ailment, then we can heal. And that's where we are.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe. After all the money, after everything that you can have, when it's all said and done, you're still black.
Still black. Yeah.
Okay? And that's how you are considered, and that's how the world looks at us. And so we just gotta start to build from within.
Yeah.
We gotta from within.
Dave Bell, I was saying earlier, Dave Bell is, he's a member of our church. He's a young man, young black man, educated black man, who is on the front line every day working with our children as a teacher. And I wanted him to be a part of this conversation, because again, we've got to build a line of communication that this is unbroken, and we all have to be saying the same thing. Even if I got to tweak a little bit of what I'm saying, so that we're all on the same page and we're saying the same thing. Because if we don't change, we're going to see another riot, and then we're going to see another riot, and then possibly my son or your son or my daughter or your daughter will be involved in one of those riots or be a victim. And it's just, we have to get some things where we're just not going to, again, and as you said, no, I don't necessarily agree or subscribe to the rioting, but I do understand the frustration. And, again, when you have people who have been being beat down, and you got people who have been being trodden upon all these years, they just get to the point where they're saying, you know what, this ain't gonna work. But now we've got to get to the point, and we've got to start encouraging, and those of you that are on, it's enough of us on here, there's enough of us on here that if we start talking to everybody in our circle and we really start sharing with them, listen, I know we're upset, I know we're mad, but we have a responsibility to make it past this. And burning stuff down ain't gonna help nothing. All right. Burning stuff down and allowing us to go on. Now watch this. Everything that white America does, they do thinking ahead of us. I told somebody the other day, I'm in most situations, I'm 10 steps ahead of who I'm connected to or who I'm around. I'm already 10 steps ahead of where you are. And that's how that's how our counterparts think. So what 10 steps are they ahead of us in? If you notice, they're not trying to break that. They're not trying to stop any of the riots. They're not disbanding any of the riots. You know why? Because they want us to keep rioting past the second. They want us to keep rioting while most should be at the polls. They want us to still be in the street fighting and breaking and tearing stuff down. The power of our voice is going to be in our vote. That's going to be the first thing. The first thing that we're able to do, and then we hold them accountable. I heard you say, Bishop. We dealt with that in Florida with the presidential election those years ago, where clearly, we won the race, but they pulled in some type of
On the side of the road, ballot, and I'm talking absentee ballots, people voting
I
literally in
mean,
ballots. And so we're talking about all of this. It sounds wonderful. It sounds great. But we had individuals who finding containers of ballots.
containers of
Ballots were
ballots.
never sent in. So
And
now what?
people, and that's when Bishop, that's when people started losing faith in voting, because they felt like we did all of this, we rallied, we did all of this voting, and it was to no avail. But we have to start getting our people to understand the process, and we got to hold people accountable. We got to hold people accountable to their voting. We got to hold people. No, I know I voted, and I know we ought to have this amount of votes in this precinct. Where are they? We've got to do that kind of stuff, so that, because that's going to be the first thing that helps us. And then, as you said, we got to start mobilizing, teaching our young people, teaching our people what it is that we need to do. What is it expected of them? You know, church is no longer just going to be the place. And I'm going to deal with this on tomorrow. Church is no longer just going to be the place where we come in and get a good shout and a sweat. But we're going to have to be informative, and we're going to have to be deliberate in our attempt and our approach to cause social change. It's going to have to come back into the church. It's not going to be about praise breaks anymore. On this next turn, as we cross over Pentecost, it ain't really going to be about the dance and the praise break and the filming and the hot. No, that's not what it's going to be about. It's going to be about, what are we doing this week? What is our assignment this week? What are we doing this week to make positive change in our neighborhood? And if every church, as Bishop Daniel said, if every church in our neighborhood, 2 and 3 churches on a block, we have literally across from our church, we have what would be considered a mega church. All right. We have a church across the street, and then down the street, we have another church. OK, so what we noticed is I noticed last week that we have the big truck comes to give relief. And they're giving it over at Triumph Baptist Church on, I believe it is on Tuesdays and Thursdays for people who don't have food. They're able to go to Triumph Baptist on Germantown Avenue, Germantown and Hunting Park. All right. So what do we notice? And Overseer Lawrence and I talked about this yesterday. Why in the world are we giving away, Why are we giving away 30 bags of food when they're giving away 700 boxes of food? Wouldn't it make sense for us to go across the street and assist them in helping so that we can be together? Because that's what it's all about. But we have been so trained. It's just gonna be us four and no more, and we're gonna do our thing over here and let them do their thing over there. No. We've got to change. We've got to have a mentality to work and make things happen. And then we're gonna be able to stand together. When they see us standing together, they're gonna back down. But right now, they know all they got to do is throw a couple of dollars our way, open the store, and let us run in and take a couple of TVs and steal a couple of things. You know, they know that's all they got to do, and we'll lose our focus, and we'll jump and we'll run after that. Bishop, give us final words.
The prayer is that the fruit remains. Whatever we accomplish, the prayer is that it remains, and it's going to only remain when we're intentional. Mm-hmm. We got to continuously do the same thing. We can't just be fired up right now.
That's right.
In a few days and a few weeks, we're on to whatever else. We're on to the next big thing. We've got to be intentional. And, I am all for, community. I'm all for policies. I'm all for implementation strategies and plans. I'm all for that. But at the end of the day, we need to be intentional, continual, and we need to infect change within our communities. And that is where, my heart is more than anything, is within our own communities. We need to reach out. We need to educate our own people, help them to rediscover who they are.
Yes.
And not who they have been told.
Yes, sir.
But help them rediscover who they are.
Yes,
and that's going to come through training. That's going to come through outlets. That's going to come through, of course, with churches and leaders getting involved and just kind of help them change the narrative.
Yes,
and
sir.
if we do that, something that I have learned about I've watched the LGBT community, their agenda, they're not trying to pass their agenda on to, adults. They are infiltrating the minds of the children. Mm-hmm. It's a brilliant plan. I didn't say it was right, whatever, but it's a brilliant plan. I think that if we can get our young men, our young boys and girls, and help them rediscover who they are,
yes, sir.
Going forward, we will have sustained results and our fruit will remain. And that's what I believe.
Now that's very good because we have a generation that they don't know who they are.
Right.
They literally don't know who they are. And I'm saying this because I worked as a teacher's assistant for many years. I also worked in mental health as a behavior specialist. And you see it all the time. You see children who are coming from broken homes. You see children who are coming from situations that they're not in touch. They have no value. Their body has no value. Their existence has no value. So that causes them to have no sense of boundary. They'll cut up in class because they're not afraid of anything. As a matter of fact, that's what's getting them attention. So they have to be, it's almost as if they have to be reprogrammed. And unfortunately, we don't have enough black teachers like Dave Bell that are able to relate to, I think all teachers are wonderful and I honor all teachers. But there are certain things that black teachers are able to deal with black children. They're able to help them understand certain things. And when our faces are not in the school or they're not seeing it, then they're not able to be taught, and it becomes a deficit. So I totally agree with you. We have to start focusing on our children. We have to start, we have to focus on them, and we have to start indoctrinating them and teaching them. But then not only that, we also have to be the example, and we have to live what we preach and what we teach. I think that's going to be the other thing because children recognize, to be honest with you, more than adults do. Children know when you're right or wrong. And
Sure.
and they're looking and expecting us to be what we say we are. And so now we're going to have to be that, and that's going to change the narrative, I believe, in what we're doing. Bishop, I guess we've started something. Dr. Phillips was scheduled to be on with us. He is traveling. He was traveling back home, and so he could not get a signal. So what we will do is we will plan in the next few days to come back and review maybe after Tuesday, or maybe even Tuesday night, Tuesday evening, we can come back on and discuss where we are. Voting, how things went with voting on Tuesday, and then we can start planning and holding ourselves accountable because we need to have some things that we are holding ourselves accountable. And everybody, these 70, 80 people that were on, you all are being held accountable too. All right. It's not just us. You all of us, we're in this thing together. So we're all going to be held accountable to doing something this weekend. What are we doing? Are we encouraging people to vote? Are we encouraging people to live peacefully? What are we doing? We got to have a commitment so that when we come back together, possibly Tuesday evening, so we're going to ask, we want you to tell us, what have you done this weekend to bring about a positive change? And as we're holding each other accountable to this, I believe we're going to see some great things happen. All right, Bishop, this was really good. I see a few people that are sharing that this was good. This was really good, and I'm excited about continuing this. You're down in Florida. We're here. We have a couple others that are in Florida that are going to connect with us. We have Baltimore. Listen, we can make some things happen. We can do some things. It's always the small cells that grow into great big things. Richard Sherman. Blackout July 7th. I believe I'll get some more information on this. Blackout July 7th. I'll get some more information on that. April, Everett, if you can find out some more information about what that is going on, then we can find out. But y'all, listen, you can't black out. You can't black out on the 7th and then go buy up on the 8th.
Right.
That defeats the purpose. If we're gonna black out, we gotta black out. All right, we gotta start making our own clothes. We gotta start farming, getting our own land. We've got some plans that we're looking at to try to get some farming so that we can be able to purchase and feed our own people in our neighborhoods and our communities. All right, we're gonna have to make change. So if they don't respect us and honor us, that's fine. we can do what we need to do. All right, Bishop, I appreciate you, man. We'll be in touch. We'll talk, and then we'll bring it back to you all. Thank you all for being a part of it. And again, make sure that you understand it's going to take all of us doing something. It's going to take all of us making something happen. And when we make that happen, we're going to see some great things happen. We're going to see some things that we've been waiting on to happen actually come to pass. But it's not going to happen until we get up and we do something. All right. I will close. I leave you with this. You can pray until you faint, but unless you get up and try to do something, God is not going to put it in your lap. These are famous words by Fannie Lou Hamer. I pray that you have a wonderful Saturday, and we look forward to connecting with you real soon. God bless you.